So you see, so these are professionals, and at least they cannot take a case to court if at all the file is not gone. Lazima file iko na subsection, and all those subsections must be completed in full. So hawezi ukapeleka file ile ambayo iko nusu. So under normal circumstances, if at all a case has not, and more so, the most integral part of a defilement case is not the police, and most of the police are usually being blamed, and it's not their fault. How ni kupeleka kesi kotini, but kule mtu ambaye atasema a case is really a defilement case or not a defilement case is the P3. Police hawajazi P3. So if at all the evidence or the exhibits are not properly protected, obviously the case is going to reach a dead end. So what we usually advise the community during the sensitization exercise is let them follow due diligence of all those processes to enable the case to achieve its final goal.
There is something that Mama said that all her children were exposed. And again, the kids are worried that in 3 weeks we are getting to elections and they don't know what to do.
I'm sorry to say, I talked about the ACE, Advanced Childhood Effect. And it's unfortunate, Mama, ni kama ulipitia hayo, lakini hakukuwa na ule mtu ambaye angeweza kukusaidia ili watoto wako wapitishwe through post-trauma counseling, which I do believe madam Wajenda amesema kuna hizo organizations ambazo zinaweza kukusaidia. So it's more or less like the only effect, the only makosa ile ilifanyika ndio hao watoto walipitia experience ya ambao umesema, lakini sasa shida ni kuwa wangepitizwa mapema, hata niseme bado saizi wanaweza pitizwa through those post-trauma counseling ili wafanye nini, wakuwe kama watoto wale wengine. Na ya pili pia kuna organization pia wanaweza kukushika mkono ili uone vile wanaweza tembea na wewe mpaka baada ya election. Thank you.
I would suggest that Mama, you said you are able to address our case. You are able to address our case for post-trauma counseling for those children. You can see how you can be helped. Madam, you can say something about she does not have people are planning to relocate. Have you heard what she said? People are planning to disappear before 9 from Kisumu, from Nyalenda and the rest of the places where they experienced trauma during the elections of 2017. And they are planning to go back to their villages. There are those like her who have no village to go to. They are worried who will take care of us. I think government should respond on that before we go for that.
You said you're living over there. Are there sites? Are there sites? Are there sites? What type of sites? Umeambiwa mwambe wanasema wewe ni mtu wa daktari, wote tutapatana na wewe mwaka uchaguzi, wote kama daktari unakuwa unaona. Sasa tunaogopa, ni kama vita itakuwa, watu wanaamini kuona kutana hivi. Okay. Kuna science within Ogoga yani somewhere. Those are the only crime
can talk mambo ya amani ama kama kuna issues. Those are the folks who are working in our offices kuone kama kuna issues. But even all the police stations, they have been mandated to go to the community, to talk to the police. And even the aspirants,
Yes, habari zenu. Sijaongea tangu niingia hapa Uingereza. Madam, we have the experience ya Kisumu. Na kitu gani inaletaka vita Kisumu? Nimekaa Kisumu kidogo nikifanya hii kazi, nikaenda nje, nimerudi tena. Hapa Kisumu haikuwagi na vita ya wabunge. Kwa hivyo, you are very safe. Sisi pia kama polisi tumejipanga, sio kupigana na watu. This time tumejipanga kuleta amani, na kazi yetu moja ni kuprotect wewe na mali yako. Kwa hivyo we are very much ready for that. Tunaelewa ni kitu gani inaendelea kati ya UDA na Uron, na sisi tumejaribu wale watu ambao ni goons ya upande ya Uron na upande ya UDA. Sasa hivi wote the leaders wako na case kotini. Kwa hivyo kana amani, lakini ile mambo alikuwa anazungumza kuhusu ile kitu experience ile alipata, ndio atafutiwe mtu ya kuongea na watoto, lakini kwa upande ya usalama wake this time itakuwa mzuri, hakuna shida. Thank you.
thank you. Here, get all the numbers ya chief, ya ACC yako, ya ofisi yetu. In case of anything, we share information. Like that one was which you talked. So, can be the DCC, Kisumu Central, however, so that we can have use from that. I know the ACCs and the chiefs are having meeting, but I don't know how much I can do. Kama hawajaweka commissioner, we have some forum within Uganda. Okay, thank you so much.
Tupigie makofi. Asanteni sana kwa feedback. Thank you. Madam, please nione. We need to organize for post-trauma counseling for your children. Na pengine tuone kuna networks na watoto wengine who also have not gone through trauma counseling in Ubunga. That tunaingia elections. We see which groups we can mobilize to come and help those children. Thank you so much. I think it is lunchtime. Where are the owners of the meeting? It's at lunch. Who can pray for our lunch? We go and eat lunch, then we come back. Mr. Lunchtime? 2:01. We take 30 minutes for lunch. Yeah. Sioni mtu wa kuuliza hiyo. Mimi nilikuwa na facilitating session. We started late. When we started late, 2 hours late. We're just moving according to the program, but now delayed because of starting late. So let's somebody to pray for our lunch. Who is volunteering? I am appointed, please.
Shall we pray? Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, Lord, thank you so much. You've guided us since we began this meeting, Jehovah God. All the deliberations that we had helped us and to the vulnerable community that we are concerned about. We want to commit everything and today, even as we break now for our lunch, may you bless it and bless our souls as we take it from Jesus' name we pray.
So you have your lunch card. Please lunch book for restaurant for you. 1 or 2 stairs where is the same. Thank you. Lakini mimi
You can't post. Set up your
Yes, I am.
Because I was thinking this for now.
No, the challenge is, we've been having issues with security. So we are working on a standard way of training so that it is fixed at first. When it comes to conferences, there is a standard way. So we look at it in terms of value addition. The value addition that is going to bring to the same value addition. For instance, I work during the African. We were 40 cents a week in Africa. We were 40 cents a week in Africa. We were paying 45,000 per day. And every evening we were getting a rate of 5,000. So we want a standard for conferences. So it is about, if you look at it in terms of value addition, what it, the picture is going to be found as opposed to the value of finance. Now, I don't know 15,000 for interpreter, and there should be 2 interpreters. 15
I'm still in a meeting, yeah? I'll call you, please.
So they were talking about it here.
That's the one I was saying.
Oh, I was on the phone.
Excuse me, you want lunch? I think the only person who's not taking lunch is Norman. You see the soul over there?
umewapatia kadi yako? Because they are missing 2 people already gone for it. Kuna watu wengine wanaenda lunch na kuna kadi.
Bishop ile.
No, Bishop alishaka. Na Bishop anakitu ziona kitu kitu. Ndio nisahau lakini anakula. Wao sasa hapa ni kuwa gentle like a woman. Unachana na zile story za urasi.
Unatuambia kwa
niongee kwa
kuna nataka watutoa
wachana shule ikibaki niko na ingine.
Yes, I do.
sawa.
Ndio tumekaa. Vera mama chenye. Kile Korea. Nitafuta application. Kuta mimi leo. Zero rest. No, the beginning, okay, the beginning is there. Within 10 minutes.
Sasa ulikuwa unasema nini? Ini mana
Ele vai fazer da application. Por que não vai?
Porque não vai dizer que não vai application.
Ele vai dar uma outra.
Kurang baru nak buat.
Ele tulis. Baru nak
We will explain ourselves later. Need to play manual.
So, good after lunch.
Good after lunch.
Good after lunch. You know, always at the session. People are their comfort and people are ready for it. So I think welcome back. We're going to continue with our session. We are going to take the shortest time possible. And to begin us off, we need a bit of entertainment to present ourselves. I'm going to invite the court production team to come and bring us an audience entertainment before we proceed. Thank you, court entertainment. Thank you.
It's the last one.
Upatie
Relax.
Ametoa pesa halafu unatoroka naye. Iko hapo ndani.
Relax bwana. Nilijua mtanifuata nini
Upatie pesa yetu. Wewe unadhani watoto wako watakula nini?
Umetuzoea.
Unaongea tena.
Kuja basa.
Nini nafanyika hapa kwako? Leo kuna meeting.
Anuko ngosi itaki kukaa. Kijana, this is my house. Unaongea namna gani kwa nyumba yangu?
Unataka na wewe mimi waanuke.
Hii kelele hii. Na wewe unafanya nini kwa nyumba yangu? Pesa yako. Is this a bank?
Huyu mama alitutuma sisi kama vijana wadogo tuende tupigane huko mahali mheshimiwa alikuwa.
Ulichukua pesa na unakimbia nalo. Si nilikuambia sitaki kukuona na huyu msichana tena. Ndeka kineno. Ona penye unaangalia. Ati pesa ya sijui nini. Omeratokeni nje. This is not a place for us. Watu wa siasa na kutawala pesa nje.
Toka nje. Toka nje.
Nenda msahau.
Baba kwenye sina.
My friend, wacha nikwambie mama kwenye sina.
Yule naenda kwa sodi.
Mama kwenye sina.
Naenda kwa sodi.
Ati pesa ya sijui nini. Na umejua kitu kingine yenye mimi nimegundua na huyu mama kwenye sina. There is something that I've realized with her. Nilimwambia hapa kwa nyumba yangu, there is only one party that should be talked about. So hiyo yao ni gani? Hiyo ni sisi kweli kwenye hiyo.
Na Raila amesema vizuri. Kila ticket ni 1K. 1K.
Msikia akisema
ukiweka stage 6K. Sasa na hii mchezo sana.
Hii mchezo yetu hii ya sijui unataka hapa kukuja na party nyingine. I will not accept that.
Na uonya tenge.
Potential what? Wacha kucheka Omera. Wacha kucheka. Potential what? Potential?
Msupport tu.
Msupport what?
Kuna some leadership.
Leadership what? Omera kwa nyumba yangu, I am the head of this family. Hujakataa nini? Do you know what I want to say? Hujakataa nini?
Umesema wewe ni head of the
I'm the head of this thing. I'm the head of state of my family, where I am the monopoly to choose for each and every person in this house on what party to belong to. I'm going to be 6 piece.
Good.
6 piece.
6 piece. Si lazima upige 6 piece.
Mama Chungani unikuta. Unaenda wapi? Social distance. Soma huko. Kanayo. You are my wife. Utaona ukijaribu. Sikupigana, you cannot fight me. I will beat you. I will use you. Tutatoka hapa moja kwa moja mpaka politician. I will make sure you will beat you. Yes.
Umerejelea hiyo.
Unaenda kupiga?
Hapana.
What money? The woman play this in the kitchen. Get out of this place.
Claire, when you come morning is something that I want to get in the head. Let me tell you, Mama Conjestina. Am I the one who married you to see the manipulator? Choose wisely, my friend. Am I the one who should in the manipulator?
John Monubia meeting with the consult.
Umejua hii ni kuwa wanama. My friend, let them speak. Wacha waongee.
Walisema aje? Peace. Doro. Kumbe sasa nikabewani peace. Come on.
Ile wiki tu peace.
Ningani na watu.
Wewe ndio unalipo hiyo peace.
Tuko na peace.
Mkuu anawacha let us go hiyo peace hiyo.
Sisi ni wanawake. This is wanawake na sisi ni vijana. Sisi mbona mnatusukuma?
Mimi sijasukuma wewe.
Mnaona hivi venye mnafanya? Tutapigana mpaka federation.
na tunaanza kupigana before election, na tutapigana after election.
Sasa wewe unaweza pigana. Wewe unaweza pigana. Wewe unapigana. Yaani wewe unaweza pigana.
Naambia tumemeintain hizi ndio msingi.
So, kwa hiyo kesi yenye unaongea, how do you want us? Wewe kama Palestina, how do you want us to maintain?
Yes. Anena ukuu huyo. Unaongea. Nasema kwa unaongea vizuri kitambo. Shida inatoka wapi? Shida inatoka wapi?
Shida ni ya kuwa bali.
Nataka kama ni 6 piece na kuna
in my house it is definitely 6 piece. Okay. No, not here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Quite an introduction. This is a snippet of what we do. We use theater to address some of the issues in the community. So we are here to partner and also just contribute to the process of protecting women and children and people with disability during and after election. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for production for that piece. I know it was a bit informative, and I believe you got the same details behind it for election. I know we are coming towards the last end of our meeting, and before we end in just a few minutes, I'd like to invite Betty to lead us in the next session. I'm so surprised, I'm ready for it. Yeah, Betty is going to lead us in the next session.
I'd like to call them, since we are having a conversation, I would like to call Jerry. I want to also be able to call the executive judiciary. Please come. We actually now are talking about the ethics that we have before us and how to be able to everything that we have talked about today, there has got to be a guiding principle that we must be able to use. And there are so many standards that have been created. And the other person was I want to know how to also okay, so we'll just have the two conversations. Can I ask you to So I will talk to you both about use that experience to be able to see how we can respond to the questions that we have before us. When we talk about do no harm, what does that mean? And I'll start with Jerry.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much. Okay, I think it's enough. When we talk about give up harm, it simply means that when you're trying to do a good thing, don't do a bad thing. Okay? Like for example, and we've just watched a skit here. So, for example, we've seen a husband who is Kemea the wife and all. So this other friend of his who had the orange t-shirt was trying to really do better by being trying to a bit listen, but you see in the process of listening, he also pushed the other lady, the visitor lady. So if it was a good thing he was trying to do, then he's already now extending it to harm. So also, when we are doing our community work, for example, then we should be careful that we are putting in measures that ensure that human rights zimeigwa, right? Tunaiga human rights, haki za kibinadamu, na tusiwe tunaegemea kuziharibu. So like for example, we do a lot of things to children, and it is in our interest that children become disciplined, become service, continue to serve both the homestead and the community. But in the process, we end up sometimes abusing them in the name of discipline. Sometimes we also end up abusing them in terms of harsh labor. So you can do harm when imagining you're doing good. So that particular phrase was particularly because of the work we do. Like in a humanitarian setup, you could be as well be out there providing certain services. But while at it, you get tempted to do certain things that then cost money.
I will come back to you on that. I just want to be able to ask the duty to protect some people of the judiciary. And we are talking specific to the issues around justice delays, justice delays. So when we talk about the duty to protect in an environment that is violent, even though something comes forward and violations taking place, how does the judiciary transform itself as a space to protect? And I say that recognizing the threshold that we put up there to be able to prove that a crime has been committed. How do we start engaging with the conversation around elections and everything that creates and and the duty of the court?
Thank you very much. I hope I'm not doing so. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. What I want to say is that the duty of the judiciary in ensuring that somebody's rights are not violated is actually limited to hearing what has been presented before it and making a decision. So if, for example, what has happened to the small play that has been shown here, we all understand that everyone has rights as provided for under the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. And more of especially if there was this young girl who was trying to say that don't push her as you know we are just what did she say? We are young people who can also, if we continue pushing us, we also can fight back. Or she was trying to explain that as much as children also, they have rights which need to be protected, which are provided for others. But this time, what I can say is, as the judicial officers, our duty is to actually ensure that people access justice as provided for under the Constitution. So we on our own, we are not able to do this, but we work in conjunction. All of us here work in conjunction with the police, the director, children department, the civil society, and all the NGOs. So for us to be able to promote justice and to ensure that a case is heard and justice is dispensed, we have to work in conjunction with these people. So we rely mostly on the police. The police will be forward to the courts. They arrest and you know the criminal justice process. The police will arrest upon doing investigation. Like the police will explain. I don't need to go through that. The police will explain. So the ODPP now will confirm the charge sheet and bring it to the court. So the court will hear the case depending on the evidence that is found before it and make a decision. I don't know what to talk about because it is, can I speak like the doctor speak? It's a whole spectrum. So there is a lot of things to be explained. Exactly, I don't know what to talk to about unless you come clear and specifically.
Okay. So listen, I'm actually going to ask the police officer to please come and join us. I'm not sure about the first one.
let's start the protocol, so now you can join us, right? What we can do, yes, and have my commander is on the ground to share the podium with you. Yes. But as many in the plenary, something I need to amplify to them. Okay, so you can come and join me. All right, so this is what I'm talking about, because you're asking about it. So both of us, and actually as it's coming in, does context matter? When you talk about duty to protect, and you talk about the principle of does context matter? We talked about this is what you saw, but there's sometimes very many underlying invisible issues. How do we take into consideration that which we don't see but has an impact? How do we take into consideration the context and its long-term impact when we're talking about principle of human? And how do we take into consideration context when we're doing investigation? That's what I mean. Because elections is not every single day safety and all. When there's a crisis, all everything is a breakdown of law and order. So it doesn't matter when you're still doing your work and how it influences the judgment. That's what I mean. Are you able to get it?
You might have seen really bad.
Yes. Okay, so I'll give you an example.
Yes.
So one time I was in court, and there were two young children who were brought to court, and they were charged to bring, well, they walked into a compound that was open, and kids being kids, you walk in, you find things, and you just think everything is supposed to be good for them. And there was a guy there who said that they had come and collected things from his compound. So they took the kids to court, and I was in court. And when they went before the judge read this thing and they said, is that true or is it not true? And they said, it is true, I took. The kids had no idea what it meant for them to say yes, right? And yet the judge knows that one is 6 years old and one is about 9. That is what children do. Does context matter? That's what I mean. So would you then say you're going to take those children and put them in some postal care for being children, or will you recognize that this context? So if you have somebody who is behind, who has been raped, would you start demanding that, oh, but you must bring some evidence, or would you consider that in an environment of that nature, there are certain things and what their word says matter? And I say, when we're talking about the principle of do no harm, when you have a case and you amplify it, what does it mean? The context in terms of the state, and the same with the police. When she tells you that it is a police officer who has defied her, would you then say you're lying, that we know that there's a context where there's been a history? Would you doubt her, or would you ask more questions so you can help? That's the question I'm asking about. Does context matter? Because we're asking ourselves, do we think outside of the box? So back again to the duty to protect. Does context matter?
Thank you once again very much. When you come to the duty to protect, actually, context matters. For example, when she says that kids, if a child does something, the court is under an obligation to actually find out what circumstances or what scenario or what triggered this person to behave this way. So if, for example, it is because the child committed offense because he was hungry, and if the court asks the child, did you commit an offense, and the child says yes, a good court will not go on to like we don't actually use sentencing commit that child to a bosom institution, but we want to find out more. Number one, it will bring all these players in the justice system in place. We call for the children officers report, do a social inquiry, find out what triggered this child to behave this way. Number two, we call for legal representation, which is actually provided for under the Legal Aid Act. A counsel to represent this child, so that this child will not just speak and say, yes, I committed offense, or I did not speak. they need to get knowledge to know the consequences of admitting or denying.
So what you're saying is that context matters.
Context matters.
Now I will go into that when we are shooting young boys in the car. Does context matter when you're told that there will be fight for the answer? I'm just following up with what you said. So I'll go back to you, Jerry. Does it matter?
There are two contexts that I would say. That one, when it comes to human rights, human rights are human rights. So we do not say some people have more right than others, or that the whole issue of law can really be packed so that human rights are abused. No. We believe that no matter what circumstances, human rights have to be observed. However, back to your question on access to justice. In every situation, and I think that's why judicial personnel or judicial, I don't know the difference between officers but generally magistrates or people who sit on the bench, is that they have what they call discretion. And in discretion, it invites them to really apply the law and appreciate the circumstances under which people operate. And I believe that's why you'll find a person A has been jailed for 1 year, and person B, almost on the same circumstance or same offense, but with different, of course, circumstances, then has a different sentence. Some people have actually been out on a probation, while others are in on a jail sentence. So it's a range of things, and I think my colleague has said that it's not one straight jacket, and to me that's where the context then matters, that it depends on the context. That when you know children have, for example, stolen or have picked without permission someone's food, it matters that it was food, that it wasn't just a watch that they stole and that it's on sale. Alright? So when they do, you look at their intention, especially in a criminal justice system, the issue of intention really comes to play. Because when they steal food, they steal because they are hungry, as a need thing, as a basic right thing, as a basic human need thing. But when, for example, maybe wanamazoea, and that's where the prosecution, and I'm sure our colleagues in the investigative arm of the police will tell us, then you look at mazoea, that's where they will say, no, we mtoto amezoea. Or there's been many times that this has happened. Or this area, this is what is happening. Like we know, like now, remember when burning of schools were happening, there was a whole array of ideas coming out, and part of them being that the government saying that now they'll be needing good conduct certification. Simply because you as a person, you're observing and you're paying attention to the fact that things are changing, circumstances are changing, children are doing ABCD, which should be abated, which should be stopped, and it should not be encouraged to go on. So to me, while I know members of the judiciary would ordinarily not be supposed to be influenced by what is happening in the society, but they're human beings, they watch, they see, and they see what's happening. Issues of impunity, for example, as they happen, they are seeing, and you can always tell how the judiciary is going. And unfortunately, in cases of defilement, we've had courts rule that the girl may be played easy, or the girl or may have consented, even while the law provides that an under 18 would not ordinarily consent to any sexual act. But then we've seen defilement being treated with a lot of leniency. So that's why I started by saying that yes, it matters. Circumstances matter, but it's also important that for us not to bank the law that has been provided and start saying, vijana, unaona huyu 16-year-old, have you had that argument? Unaona huyu 16-year-old na huyu 17-year-old. So walifanya tu sex, you get. So there are circumstances that, yes, then these two children should be children taken to be in conflict with the law, but not maybe branding one as the offender and the other as having accepted. So I think it's a discourse that really needs to be seen. And I like for members that really participate, for example, in court choosers committee, then they are able to see the different circumstances that lead to happen in the justice system and what then ails it. Because it's in this making consideration and just saying, unajua siku hizi wasichana ukiwaona tu huku nje wanatembea na wazee, sasa msichana utasema alirepiwa kweli, you know? So we start making the victim the failure because also we are allowing a lot of circumstantial issues to happen.
Alright, so then I'll go to the officer. Is the police station a space for arrest, investigate, and convict?
Thank you. Police station, our duty is partly to arrest, but we don't convict. We do a little investigation after getting the report. We investigate, then take to the ODPP. The ODPP who recommends if a child can be taken to the court or otherwise. But our duty is purely, we don't redirect to the court or the judiciary, although we are working in partnership. But nowadays, the weight of the prosecution depends on the ODPP. So there are also other children who are the habitual offenders. So we investigate, we know, we try to find out how whatever he has been doing, whether he has been committing the offense regularly. After that is when we recommend that we can decide to take the child to take the file to the ODPP, who in turn recommends for the court to make the proceedings.
The reason why I ask that is that every time we go to a police station, the chances of being thrown into the cell is higher than being just out. So that's the reason why I'm framing it. Because I have walked in, I have been told this is somebody, and they like bring the person in their life. And then the question is, we start with the bail, then we start with the investigation. That's really why I asked you that particular question. And for me, the issue here is it possible for us to look at, say, this is not a case that should be handled here? That's one. Even if you go forward, you say, I would recommend for the person to be released. And for you to be able to say that when cases come in, I can allow them to, it doesn't. And I'll say this, and we remember COVID. Do you remember COVID? And people were not able to afford 10 shillings for a mask in some areas because they were competing needs. But when we arrested them and took them to court, we were charging them anything between 500 to 5,000 pounds. Remember, there were different charges. Some. But there were different charges, right? So you did not know who was going to be charged today 3,000 and who would be charged 500. That's my point. And the question was, is there context? Was there context? I asked that because at some point you all got tired about arresting people because we also, this is not working for us. So by the time we got tired, so many people's lives had been transformed, if I can say that. The conversation we're having now is because what happens when we have elections is that do we then say you have a pass, I can talk with you, I don't have to use my tear gas, I can have somebody brought into court but I will tell that person there is no case here. Do you understand? I can have somebody arrested, but I will ensure that if there's a woman who has a child and I've arrested her, I recognize she has a child and I will tell her to go home and come tomorrow. The principle of do no harm. So the conversation we're having applies to all of us here in one way or another. And that institutions have much, much bigger role than just the ones we know. Arrest, investigate, and conveyor those to ABBP. That there's a lot more discretion that we have amongst us. Any question? Because I want to throw this back. This conversation is important because unfortunately we don't have a person from health because that would have been something that would be useful for us. Do you believe that there's a bigger role that the police can play? And the judiciary? And development partners? When it comes to the conversation around do no harm? and protect it. Okay, you guys, I know we're tired. Yes.
Yes, I don't know what is that question, but it's a concern, also based on what you are putting across. And in most cases, stepping in a police station is not one of the reasons for any other person, even alone. And going to a police station and you want to make an inquiry or you want help or things like that. And then going to the lobby, the station, and you want to make a case. For any ordinary person, it's not easy. So how do we work around to make it accessible and friendly to the victim, even to report the cases? And the same also applies to the judiciary and the judicial system. Today, if somebody sees me in the corridors of court, they will ask me, Mori, what has brought you? What is bringing you before me today? And then a victim wants to come and say, oh my Lord, my rape case was brought me here because it is stigmatizing. The only issue is so much, we need much from the victims that ourselves, it is not easy, even for other issues that does not even relate to sexual and gender-based violence. So as the institution, what can we do to make our institution that accessible and non-stigmatizing to enable the population who may be not lucky to be involved in victims of violence, whether it is sexual or anything, then they will feel safe to even think of coming to the judiciary or coming to the police to look for justice. Because where I sit, myself, I'm not a victim, but going to the police station, I feel myself, what am I going to do? Going to the judicial system and standing before a judge is intimidating for me in the first place. Now what about when I am done I'm a victim? So I'm looking at a situation whereby, yes, we encourage victims to go to this institution. And before I even come to that, I work in the NGO, but I'm from the medical field. Even when they come to the hospital, and you want them to start explaining to you what happened, it is something that stigmatizes them. And you will see that emotions that you need. So as an institution, as we sit here, I was just sitting here and listening and asking myself, then what do we need to do as stakeholders to make our services attractive and accessible to the gender-based violence? Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. I would also wish to react to that. Of course, I work for a board, and definitely I'm the first person to say that we are optimistic and we are hopeful that police stations will be places where anyone can walk in and be assisted without feeling intimidated or without feeling threatened or being made to express yourself. I know if you ever go to a police station, if you're able to compare, because for us when we are going out there, we are always trying to see if there's a change in terms of what the police are doing. We carry out certain activities at the police station, and we are able to go back to try and see if there is any change as far as our accommodations are concerned. Of course, generally, someone would say that there is still much more that is supposed to be done at the police station. And we agree with that. And we also noted that at the moment, there is a very good response, especially from the senior police officers, because they appreciate what is expected of them. But we still have a problem with the senior officers, because those are the officers who in
interacting with the members of the public who come to the police station, for example. So, as much as we accept or we agree with the fact that there is still much more to be done in terms of having these stations receptive to members of the public, we actually made great leaps and great steps in terms of, for example, to bring about a change at the police station. So, to just respond, I believe, as a person and as an officer working with the police, that we are working towards that. And we also have to accept that there's still much more that is supposed to be done. Some of these issues can be handled locally at the police station level. Some of them, maybe someone else may be required access to, but we can't wait for someone else to come and bring this change at the police station level. So it starts from the police commanders and their juniors, especially their juniors, because from experience, you talk to an OCS, there is something is very okay. You send a complaint to him or to her, his assistant. What about the juniors? So I think that is something that we can work on, and I think I'm positive that we are doing the right direction.
So the image of the police station is actually defined by very many people, and also by the action of all those people. And the same will apply also in the judiciary, right? That all those people make the judiciary, and it creates the image and the story around it and the narrative that you create in the community. So I'm going to ask Jerry now, in your professional opinion, if I was to ask you, if I was to ask you to be generous in trying to overhaul these two institutions, what would that look like to you? When we're talking about duty to protect and the principle of do no harm, what would that entail?
One, I'll really, even in the first place, like to agree with our colleague from my power, that really and honestly, the police are also changing. They are not who they were before. These two officers have been sitting with us since for long. Ordinarily, they would have already asked us what we are doing here, whether we had license and stuff like that. But they've been here, and so it is part of the change. So, but to me, and we don't know whether it's true or it's cliche, the way the police ask you in Tanzania, naomba nikushika. So it would be important that we start looking at officers as access to justice avenues, like whether judiciary, chief, nyumba kumi, police, that they are accessible people, that ni watumishi wanatutumikia sisi. Not that when you appear before them, you're almost looking at whether your collar is nice, whether, in fact, the more vulnerable you are, the more afraid you get, because then it appears the less attraction you'll be, the less appealing you'll be to them. So for me, one, it should be really an awareness or an overhaul of attitude, that we change our social norms. That one, even when you look at a woman victim, all of us, we stop looking at them as, so unatoka vizuri, unajua ile something, ukotembea huko usiku, pia mimi wasichana mnajaribu sana. So you see already, when you start looking at them like that, when they come before an officer and they are already having a miniskirt and you're creating an attitude. When they go to court and on that day they are really wearing nicely and they have good makeup and you start thinking, huyu, tunajua tu. So really, I think the whole attitudinal change and ranging from all of us. And so it will spread to the police. Because to me, the people that give us their justice system are people that we live with. They are people that are in this community. Tutatoka hapa, tutaenda kila mtu ataenda kazini mwake. Whatever however we socialize, is the same way they depict how they socialize. So I think the awareness would be very important. Attitude would be very important. Really positive attitude towards all human rights. That human rights are equal. Like, usidharau mtu, you know? Because even us, many of us also have an attitude towards police. Tunaangalia tu tunajua hawa ni kina nani. Ni kama police station, it's a school for failures. Isn't that what we imagine? That when we see someone has a serious offense, siku tu ulipass ukaenda police. When we get police officers, police that are graduates, we tend to think, hey, you're one of a kind. I mean, so we all have a cross-section of attitude towards each other. So the all important about us appreciating each other as equal human beings, as people that deserve a service, as people really that deserve protection. Unfortunately, our judicial system is adversarial, especially criminal justice. So it assumes that the perpetrator is innocent. And so many of us would want to imagine that kuna hongo kuna nini, but that's the way the adversarial system is. So I would think that we all need to be aware. We all need also to be accept as non-state actors especially, to be able to create and continue to create awareness on both sides. Both on the side of the duty bearer, but also for us to be able to hold the duty bearer to account. When the demand side is so low, when the demand side cannot just be able to ask a question, the duty bearer becomes all important, because then utaulizwa na nani, utajalishwa na nani. But as long as we know, ndio mwajiri wangu, even for politicians, as long as we start appreciating that sisi ndio wenye kura, kwa hivyo sisi ndio wenye haki, sisi ndio wenye tunaandika wa kazi, and the equality will also come. So I would look towards a society that is really receptive, that is really looking at access to justice as a right. So wakati umeketi pale ofisa, and the reason you left home was to go and serve people. So then you serve them with that roho ya kuserve, you know? And we know, we've all gone to public toilet, and those ladies and gentlemen in those toilets look at us like, umekuja kufanya nini? And I'm like, tumekuwa tutumii choo, umekuwa una job. You get, everyone is important, you know? So, but we shouldn't look at any job that is less, or any job that is more important than another. If we all treat, when you apply your job, fanya your job kwa haki, fanya your job bila ubaguzi, do not particularly discriminate against women and young women and that, do not discriminate against persons with disability, and that discrimination comes even from the fact that mtu kama ana physical disability, hata kuatendiwa kuingia pale ndani, kule kwenda muuliza anataka nini, jua hapa hivi ingia hapa, kuna hapa hakuna nafasi. So you know, that already pushes someone off. So if we all accept that we can treat each other with respect, it will enable us to do no harm.
For the officer, it is interesting that when we are talking about safe spaces, why are the two of us saying that the police station is a safe space? And yet we have them everywhere. We have right actually down the place, we have a police post. How do we make the police station, police post, a safe space for people to run? What does that entail?
Ever since, I haven't seen any awareness on the side of the public. It's only on the side of the police. This awareness will be created on both sides. Another thing, we are in Kenya. Madam said that unlike Kenya is unlike Tanzania, where the police officer, when he comes to arrest you, he plead for you to be arrested. Me myself, I'm one of the politest police officers, and I've tried to apply the same, but it is not applicable to Kenya.
Have you said now?
Yes, I've tried.
I can just you want now, but you should get.
The other side, police is just like a community. Every character is there. And I can say all of us are here, we are parents. I believe many of us here, we have more than one child, with the same father, with the same mother. Their characters are not the same. Why do you have to expect the police to have the same characters? It is impossible. Police stations, we have created awareness to the senior police officers. They are very few, so it is very easy to reach them. Even today here we are two. We are on the same side of awareness. Awareness is being created here, and we are only two here. So we live here with something, but the majority of police officers, they are not present. But we also try to reach them after such like occasions. But we cannot reach them all, and some of them does not take everything positive because of the characters, the individual characters. But a good number of us, we have changed, and we are changing, and we are putting everything in place so that we can satisfy the members of the public for the services we are providing. Thank you.
Does the court see itself transforming in another 3 months? Because we know that come August 9, and I'm not just talking about violations, I'm also talking about just the election violence that will involve women and involve passing disability. What is our face in terms of duty to protect? Please stay with me.
Yes, thank you very much. What's transforming, and as we sit here, all of you can agree that there has been a lot of change since the 2010 constitution came into force. We indeed have seen a lot of transformation. For example, we entirely have courts addressing issues concerning children, which we're trying to set up child-friendly courts where the vulnerable children can address their issues. We are also moving towards creating courts for gender-based violence, children, women who their rights have been violated. And above that, we are seeing what is happening from at the national level. We have the NCAJ working with the grassroots, with the court users committee. So we have seen quite what is happening within the country. We are having judicial officers, judges and magistrates meeting with the people from within the court users committee, and they discuss on various issues affecting members of the community. So that when you go back sitting there, when you are hearing a case affecting a child or even a vulnerable person like a woman whose rights have been violated, you know how to handle it. So actually, courts have transformed, and we are actually moving towards that, and we are trying through the court users committee to reduce that form of tension when somebody appears before a jail. It is true. Personally, I've seen this. You can see a person before they even speak, they are trembling and they are shaking. So you see, you try to create that friendly environment to ensure that if this person doesn't understand English or Kiswahili, we have an interpreter. We have interpreters within the court system. We will allow this person speaking in the room so that it can be interpreted to the court to reduce that kind of tension between the judicial officers and the litigants. And indeed it's working. If somebody speaks in a mother tongue, they're more relaxed other than insisting that they speak in the language that they're not conversant. For example, if lawyers will use this complicated language that even an African Wananchi is not able to understand, but court has really worked towards that. We have mediation, court and mediation centers. So, like my friend, my colleague here spoke and said that court is a facade. We need to work towards having a win-win situation, so that in cases where parties can agree, especially in matters affecting children, it's good if parents will go to mediation and have a win-win situation other than having the court decide on an adversarial way. Same applies to divorce issues. And on other matters, it depends on the discretion of the court. Like my friend here said, that during the COVID period, you will not know which person will be charged 500 and 3,000. But as she spoke, it came in my mind that actually context matters. When I cannot speak on behalf of my other colleagues, but to be honest, if like all of us are sitting here and we're given a same case with same facts, we are likely to come up with different decisions. You know, lean towards a certain, yes, absolutely. And then you also satellite stuff, even the community and the peers, cultural beliefs and practices from your background. So how you view that that act? Like for example, the issues of incest previously were unheard of. But there are those communities who believe that it is not for, and I don't want to say which particular community. So they will take it as like it's a normal thing, and they don't see anything serious in that one. Like in cases of, for example, murder, you will find that this body is deciding that people must reconcile, and the other one is saying, no, this community does not allow that. Once you have murdered, you will be gated, and you cannot be allowed back in that community. But other communities will say, okay, fine, pay this kind of number of acts, and then we can do blood sharing, we can reconcile. So it also depends on various issues. So courts are really trying, and on certain issues like children, when a woman is arrested, and perhaps she will plead guilty, you don't first of all want to send this person to custody for 6 months. You do not want to do that. But again, I would say that depends with a particular judicial officer. Because number one, I want to see why will this woman start doing this to me. Number two, if I'm sending her to custody, does she have any children? Has she left the children behind? What is going to happen to these children? So if I put her in custody for like 1 year, am I not having the children who she has left behind? So by trying to clear like we're sending a maybe information to the public that actually doing illicit group is wrong. And how am I again protecting the rights of these children who have right to food, to protection, parental responsibility by the mother who are sending to custody? And that is why I say it is crucial that we work in conjunction. All of us here are important. Judiciary in its own cannot be able to promote justice unless we work with all of us here. So I will call for the probation officer's report, and she will tell me, this woman, the children are in fact locked in the house. So if she must be sent to custody, then we need to find out how what to do. Do we have a placement so that they can be taken care of, so that they don't have if something happens to them there. So it is important. Judiciary actually is transforming, and there is so much things that are happening, and especially during this election period, we have had, all of us have been trained. We have been taken on training on how to handle election petition and election offenses during this election period. We have also been trained on how to handle the victims of this violence, just in case it is there. And for the Children's Court, I'm glad to say that I chair the Court Users Committee. We are actually preparing, and through our CUCC, we are able to identify, just in case it happens, where are we supposed to, because naturally we have a case whereby we will have children not only from Kisumu coming here because of the violence happening within the other counties. So how do we take care of this? In conjunction with the Judicial Department, we are finding out, should we have a proper mechanism just in case our own remand home, and the Kisumu remand home is now overwhelmed. What next other option are we looking at? So we are working towards that, and we are actually preparing. We recently sent some of our colleagues, and you can agree with me, they visited Pompeo Rescue Center, and we now in our mind we know that if it happens, and we actually overwhelmed because some of the NGOs who rely on them closing up for a short period because of the elections, the Agape work are closing up. So like a court, I will get actually stranded if a child has been taken to the street in need of care and protection, and I don't have a place to place her because the remand homes are full. So we actually working towards that. So we
conversation we're having, I want us to put this conversation into context and imagine we're talking about sexual and gender-based violence. So, what does it mean when I walk in? And what does it mean when I walk in? And remember that we always have a crisis in pursuit, usually when it gets terrible. So we're not talking about one person. We're talking about 7 people in one day. What does that mean for the duty to protect? But we will go back and ask the question she wants to ask the first one.
Yes, thank you very much, Miss. Mine is a question and I think at the same time a comment. So when Betty talked about, she asked the commander, the police representative about safe spaces, what it really entails. So pardon me, but I didn't really expect him to not only talk about the safe houses rather than shelters, but to talk about the gender-based. Like if it exists in your police station, and if they are friendly and if they are also effective and efficient in terms of confidentiality. And not forgetting the fact that if they even have that having in mind the people living with disability, when you talk about the deaf, are there measures in places where the gender desk you have some people who can really assist? Thank you.
Okay. I think you forgot. 2006, 2007, 2008, police stations for the first time were actually safe spaces for people. That is the place where people went to. And there was a reason why people went to those places. And the people, the displacement, the violence that we saw for a while. And we have to ask ourselves why at that particular time it was considered safe. Was it only safe on that time, or immediately that ended, then it was revert back to settings? Food for thought. Because it did happen, and then something went wrong, right? So, let me just say thank you, because then we want to have this conversation and then move on and start going back to ask ourselves. So thank you very, very much. Thank you. I hope I didn't choose that. Now, please, you guys, thank you. We began very soon, so don't worry, I'm going to talk to you. This conversation for me is very important, because this is where, what do they say? What fits the rubber hits the road. Is that it? Yes. If I walk into a police station, I walk in there because I want justice. If I walk in there and my first encounter is one of hostility, that will be the end of my journey for justice. And it will apply everywhere I go. It will apply when I go to a hospital. It will apply if I go to court. It will apply when I'm sitting down with the investigator who is asking me whether what I was wearing was actually reasonable enough for me to have influenced that whole experience. It is the same thing when I go to hospital and I'm being asked questions in a way where I have to justify that I was actually innocent. The principle of do no harm. First, that you must believe when you have a survivor. It's the first thing. Immediately replace doubt, you will not do anything called accountability and justice for that person. You will second guess her every single time that person is able to talk. The principle of the duty to protect is that when I walk into that police station, you must recognize that there is context, stigma, discrimination. I walk in there, I am somebody's wife, mother, daughter, sister, cousin. In other words, when I walk in there, I actually have a whole community behind me. The way you deal with me will impact not just me, but it will impact every other person. It will impact my son, my daughter. When they go to school, somebody will make fun of it. If my husband was going to work, it is a conversation that we have. And I say that cognizant of what the police have started doing. That we arrest people and before you know it, there is a photo and a board and a number and then a whole story. Have you seen those interesting stories you now give?
Not in red places.
Not in red places. But the question for me is, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. When we put that there, we've already stated something. That the person is already guilty. For us, the issue about confidentiality and privacy is something that we must be able to protect, no matter who you are. And the person who is raped, but do we say that for the person who is considered a rapist? Would we put that? Because there are not in rape cases. Not in rape cases. Whether you're a perpetrator or a thief, it doesn't matter.
Already be telling you identity.
I'm sorry?
If you are put the portrait of the perpetrator,
yes,
people who have interacted with this will easily know who and who.
So no perpetrator, no victim. Those ones we do not show. That's what I'm saying. The photo of either the perpetrator or the victim is shown.
I'm saying let me say sexual violation.
You don't show either the perpetrator or the survivor.
I've never seen a match of either the victim or the perpetrator.
Okay. So no perpetrator, no survivor is shown. But the question is, what happens to others? Not even a rape survivor. Nobody. Do we have the right to be able to do that when somebody is still innocent and do as if for somebody who is innocent, and then afterwards, we've already put that person. But every single institution that we walk to has a duty and responsibility to protect the confidentiality of the person that is before them. That everyone is deserving of equal treatment. Equal. A police does not become the judge, the jury, and everything. That is done by another institution. We have a conveyor belt that will process all this until the end. And I think everybody should be able to respect the set of boundaries that you have to place. The elections and its violence and its attendant violence means that we cannot then start saying, just because I was in the street protesting, that I'm the one who broke some video. There is no such thing called collective responsibility. And that is the reality. And so when they're talking about arresting every single person, that is something we must be able to consider. The principle of do no harm, very important. Very, very important. It is the one thing that decides whether we are governed by law or we have decided that the will of law is out. The whole idea about being called a hotspot is something that needs to be questioned because of how we will apply the law. Selectively, maybe, discriminate, maybe. Do we apply the law at all? Perhaps not. But it's something that we have got to question. When I ask somebody what does it mean when we say that we are in a hotspot and there is violence, and somebody says that you just kick it in, it means that that is a place that you cannot guarantee that you can handle it. Or that the stakes are so high that we have got to use what we call reasonable force. Is that the word? Reasonable force. And the question we ask ourselves is, what does reasonable mean? 5 tear gas? 10? No tear gas? Bishop will understand what's wrong with it. So we have got to be able to engage in this conversation because it has impact. One, there are innocent people who might get affected as a result. Two, the chaos that is created also then moves to not just the place where it was, but to other places and other people that become victims of an incident where they have absolutely happened. All of us have got a responsibility. All of us must play a specific role, which means that even when it comes to reporting and reporting, all of us have a duty to be able to say, actually, on this particular date, we were wrong. On this particular date, we were right. And that applies to whether you are a duty bearer or a rights holder. We all have obligations that we must be able to apply when it comes to issues of elections, and we must be held accountable to it. But having said that, Kenya is governed by rules, we are governed by laws. If we stop applying them or decide to apply them selectively, we have a problem. Because nobody then gets to choose what laws they want to apply, because then it becomes the rules of the jungle, and nobody becomes the person. So, thank you, every single person. Yes?
Good afternoon. It has not forced me to stand up. Because under all circumstances, we just have basically had issues to do with gender-based violence and sexual violence. But under all circumstances, there's a scenario I want to give. I'm not specifically of me. I'm talking generally of persons with disability. Okay, the CISO have basically behave also ours as children's department. But I was also to say that the mwananchi also akija na attitude of facing. I can cite a very good example. We are talking about politics, right? I think it is Junaid Mohammed who talked about Isaac Maura. I think it can bring some value to your heads, right? So what about verbal violence? Must it be physical violence? What is the reaction? Somebody like me, if at all I give an example, somebody comes to my office because for me, cases are reported to me. Then somebody comes starting insinuating. You have so many languages, but come to mentor. So in such a situation, what are we supposed to do? Are you getting me? Because I'm learning gender, wanawake, na watoto. But person's disability, not from a bitter end, but a reality. Disability is a club. Any of us can do anything anywhere. We have to accept the reality. Is it true? Handlers with absolute care. We don't need sympathy, we need an opportunity. And we demand for it. Okay? So we also need absolute respect and dignity. As much as, okay, with me I'm an assistant director in the children's department, the directorate, we are no longer department, I'm sorry. We are a directorate currently. Sasa mteja akikuja kwa ofisi yangu, utasikia mtu akianza kusema ya kuwa, okay, ndio kama, I can give a very good example. Mtu akikuja kwa ofisi aanze kusema, wewe mama unaenda kumshtaki kulingana ya watoto. Sivyo? Na kama uko na shida mingi, huyo, albino ndio utamchukua nimpeleke Tanzania, abadilishwe dawa, akuja tumike kutibu nini? Hizo shida zako. What does that insinuate? Do you expect me to have that good positive attitude? Is it? So under normal circumstances, let's not just be single-handedly putting government offices. The CSO, I'm challenging you. Really, come on and support the public. Try and draw sense into them. At least, respect is a two-way traffic. Is it true? Is it not true? So let us also take our time to sensitize the locals. Ili wajue hata wakikuja kwa maofisi wasikuje na high expectation, lakini pia wao wakuje na heshima. Apart from offices, you find somebody walking along the street. Mwananchi na frustration zake anaamua kukurushia matusi. What do you expect? Nikiwa kwa polisi sawa, wataanza kusema imekuwa aje, imekuwa discipline, imekuwa what has happened, yes, I'll report, but tayari are already stigmatized. So apart from apart from the election violence, the forthcoming election, it is a routine. So any person with disability undergoes trauma, stress, frustrations, violence, not directly but indirectly psychologically. Na mtu atakwambia hapo, afadhali unichape, nitaisimchumi unishe, badala ya kunistress kiakili, sivyo? So under normal circumstances, at what level or under what support do you give persons with disability generally? Because I understand even some of you will be shocked to know there is some languages, and I'm sorry to say exactly as I told him, I signaled him. There are some very respectable languages that you people are supposed, the way you address us, the way you call us, will insinuate negative or positive. Maybe mtazichukulia kama ni kawaida, but maybe mtachukulia negative. So at least to a level here, tuangalie how we address persons with disability. Because I sum it up by saying, disability is a club anybody can enter anytime, so be careful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do not have anything apart from saying that I acknowledge and accept, and today's conversation was really focusing on sexual and gender-based violence amongst the key support groups. It is a sensitive area, I agree, but we were talking about that. This is what this conference was about today. But that's not to say we cannot have another conference where we will specifically and we can say same one as it. And I think the organizations that are here now are focusing specifically on the work on disability, and I think that is something that we can pick up. That is the commitment. But I think also, considering the office you represent, it would be also very nice for you to be able to then reach out to them to say, I would love to have this conversation with very many people. We may not get the language right. Please correct us every single time. I don't think we generally, not I don't think. I know nobody needs to be offensive, but we learn, and we continue to learn. So please, you will forgive us for saying the wrong words. I'm sure I'll also be there, so we need you to protect myself. So thank you, every single one of us. Thank you so much. And I want to hand over to you to take us to the next steps. Because I know this is now our last leg. Thank you.
So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for being in that session. I know I wait for your questions to be towards the last end of it. And in the next session, I'm going to invite again, who is going to give us a part of the resolution is okay. And after that, we'll invite one or two of us to close the forum so that we can call it. Kindly, Sabina, Salemo.
Good afternoon. I believe you have had a wonderful discussion. You have had a good panelists, and it's important that as we finalize our conference today, we were to present a call to action that we just discussed. It's going for us to come up with what are the key issues, what are the key issues from this format. So we'll give a chance to each level to give us two presentations from this format. So we look at each level to give us the key aspects from our conversion 6 months of it. So employment will help us effectively, giving out from each level what are the setup for each level. This is that for
It's realized that each and every stakeholder should play a role in relation to protecting children, young women, and people with disabilities during and after election. So it is all of us to play a role. If you look for specific individuals or specific institutions, then probably we will not succeed.
Okay, so I indicated that matters protecting women, or safeguarding women, children, and youth during election can access the fraud. So each one of us, each organization, each one of us has a stake in this. So we need stakeholders for election. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The effort was we should come together and set an effort because as we've had from various speakers, it is a collective responsibility to ensure that our women, our children, our brothers and sisters living with disability are taken care of. Safe
there's also a little to collective responsibility. Then we can pass us. Thank you. There's a contribution from Mr. Box, Clement. There's a contribution from Mr. Box.
No? Okay, we say two resolutions, so I'm giving our next resolution. So, based on the statistics that you are given here by the ESR network, we gathered that only 30% of child abuse cases have been reported, and mostly they are SGBV cases. These ones actually, most cases come out when we realize that there are so many teenage pregnancies. And therefore, there is need for all of us to work around the clock to ensure that the other 70% of the cases are reported. We aspire to protect the children, and therefore, we have to do all that we can in our communities to identify child abuse cases and report them appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Only 30% of sexual gender-based violence cases reported. So we need to think about the 30%. Thank you. Okay, so matters protecting within the community is the mandate of the state, and the commitment that our partners from the Department of the Police and even the judiciary will give you the minutes. Thank you.
For us, on our way forward, we take that as we go back to our places, we need to ensure community sensitization and reporting, and parallel pathways and linkages, particularly in matters of because we realize that we deal with the physical aspect that we can see associated with violence, like maybe burning down the houses, destruction of property, but the internal pain that people have, some of it is left not noticed, and people end up with trauma throughout their life. So it's important for investigation. Then we also need to form multifaceted stakeholder engagement teams that are county that can easily address issues of children affected by violence.
Thank you. We need to look at the psychological and the mental part within our community members, and also cascade this to the sub-county level, so that we can also have protection at the sub-county level. Thank you.
The National Police Service recognizes that the service is the primary, has the primary responsibility on the protection of life and property. However, we recognize the importance of other stakeholders in building capacity and enhancing our collaboration, so that we are not left alone, but we are able to reach out to people that they are able to approach us whenever they are in trouble and help us at least execute our commission.
Okay, thank you. There is assurance and commitment from Office of the regional commander that they are going to ensure that our rights, and we are going to work on them during the election period. Thank you.
Yangu ya kuwa sisi wote tunahitajika kuwa macho na yote ambayo tunaifanya isiwe tu ni siku ya uchaguzi, iwe ni kitu ya kila wakati. Tena ni vizuri sana tungelianza kabla ya hiyo uchaguzi ifike, ndio sasa tujue tumefundisha watu wengi na tumehamasisha watu wengi. Na nyingine ambayo inakuwa ngumu sana, unapata kesi zingine hazifiki kwa polisi kwanza, ama inalingana na ile familia. Labda sasa mama mtoto wake amenajisiwa, na utapata ule mama labda ni mtu wa kutafuta riziki tu, hand to mouth. Alafu tena akiona gharama tena ambayo inaomba stakeholders wazungumze na habari ya pale hospitali, idara ya hospitali, kwa sababu fees, pesa ambayo wanahitaji ile kufanya zile test nini, ndio inafanya watu wengi, wamama wengi wanakufa moyo, kesi zote hazifiki. Ndio maana sasa unapata watu wanalaumu polisi bure. La, polisi hawafanyi chochote. Wao ni kukisha report, watasema wanampa pit reform, nenda naye hospitali, alafu ulete report. Lakini sasa utapata familia ile pesa ambayo inaitishwa pale inafanya sasa ule mama hata wanakufa moyo. Sasa stakeholders pia tuangalie, itafutwe kama kuna chombo ambacho itasaidia wale ambayo wameathiriwa, chombo ambayo itasaidia hawa kufuatilia zile ripoti za hospitali nini, alafu ndio action. Nafikiria hapo hivi tutakuwa tumepiga hatua nzuri ya kuzuia hiyo.
Thank you. Can we step up the mic?
From my side, I can say two items. One, something that I think from the bishop in the morning, he mentioned that they have been using their forums, like for example in the funeral, in the church service, to talk about peace. So that is also my plea to all of us. Let us not only wait for the high level meeting, but let us utilize every opportunity. Will it be in our office? Will it be in our families? Let us talk to our children. Let us talk to them. When you are in the church or when you are in the mosque, may you speak to them about peace, so that everybody can be able to receive the message even at the classroom level. And something else also that I want to mention is, as the relevant institution, especially the government institution that are relevant, it is my belief that all of us, we are going to be impartial and non-partisan and respect our duties as expected, just as our regional commander was telling us. Have a stage.
Okay. My take home will be two. One, I tend to believe that economic empowerment of our youths, women, and people who are able differently is key to ensuring that violence is minimized. And then two, I also tend to believe that as government and even the CSOs, we need to involve our youths in our peace building activities by ensuring that they even occupy the leadership positions and not just members of such committees, so that their input is also respected and actually implemented. Otherwise, if we exclude them, then they will consider themselves as outsiders and still continue being used by, when we use the politicians, and to cause havoc. Otherwise,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tawad.
Now, for my end, I have two issues of my people. One is that there is urgent need for state actors to establish a safe house within the city where victims of violence can be especially good. The second point that I want to note is that there is need for security agencies to enhance surveillance, particularly on hotspots that are in around, so that they can be forestalled any instances of violence that we have. Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to say, just to add on what my friend had said about using the coach user, I wanted to add on something that during the entire session, there's a part I didn't hear about, and that is on the survivors network, especially when the lady was sharing about her experience in Obuga and all that she's now afraid of yet to happen again. I'm just hoping that the CSOs within the room, I believe we can be able to also partner with the CSOs that are in charge of survivors network. Unfortunately, I didn't hear of any that is doing that work, but I believe the CSO that is in charge of survivors network will be so helpful, especially now that guys are heading towards the elections, in terms of helping the guys who are afraid, and even after the elections, on whatever outcome that will be there. And that will bring out the strong partnership between the victims, the courts, and the police. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to appreciate all of us, to guide us how we are going to appreciate all of us, then have all of us from Madam Aranja, then prayers from our Muslim religious leaders.
So thank you so much. It's okay. Personally, I'm really happy that we are in such a forum. And my friend talked about involving the youth. The youth are already here. But an introduction meant to the youth in terms of critical performance and skills development. So we also partner with that organization. So to appreciate that, I want us to give us 52,000, not 52, but 54,321 claps. Yeah? 54,321 claps. So we're going to do this. We're going to start with 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. Are we ready? Let's warm our hands. Let's warm our hands. All right. 5, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much.
Good evening, colleagues. I've been asked to give a vote of thanks. Today, Keegan was really a favorite in ambushing me, but I will give a vote of thanks. I think I'd like to start by appreciating the conversation, just like others have mentioned. It's a conversation I think we should also be having more often. And so my vote of thanks is probably going to be weaved with my own takeaways from what I have gathered today. I think this is, we need to be having more conversations like this. And I'm reminded of the work that we also support as UNICEF in preparedness for emergencies and disasters. there are three areas. There's preparedness, but there's also mitigation and response. And I think as a country we have focused so much on response, but we need to do more when it comes to preparedness and mitigation. And I think the conversation in the room was focused on that, looking at preparedness, looking at mitigation. And like my colleagues have said, as we move towards the elections, let's also remember that it's very important to have an after-action review, because I think that is where we shall capture cases and situations like our mama here mentioned, that after the action, who are still affected and in need of the support of all of us here in the room. The other appreciation really is just to hear how the judiciary has changed, also the police service has changed, and this is really a step in the right direction. I hope that we are going to continue staying in touch. These meetings provide a very good platform for networking, and I know we have networks throughout the day, and let's keep those networks alive and continue to support one another. I think one thing I didn't do when I came into the room is also to introduce myself as, yes, UNICEF, but we also co-lead with World Vision on the Western Humanitarian Hub. And this is one of the humanitarian pillar, is one of the pillars under the National Contingency Plan for Election Preparedness. And so it was very useful for me to be in this room and to make my contributions. And I really, really appreciate the focus on working with youth, involving women, youth, but also the focus on children. This is very, very much welcome, because they are members who are really vulnerable in our society. But again, what we had said earlier is that everything that we are doing really is for the protection of children. It takes and women and men and boys and girls. It really takes a concerted effort, but we need to be consistent. Maybe my closing remark would be, let us focus on preparedness and mitigation more. We are going to have another 5-year election cycle. You tend to see a lot of work happening just few months before the elections. And I think it's not enough. I think we need to be in a space where we are preparing and we are also putting in place mitigation interventions, really making sure that our programs, our thinking of institutions is risk-informed. Because when it is risk-informed, then we are better able to collectively weather any kind of emergency that takes place. So on behalf of our organizers, there was UN Women, DSW, NCPD, the East Africa Child Rights Network. We really thank you for bringing us together, for facilitating and thinking about this conversation. And I know it is one that we are all going to take away as organizations, to go and take away, share with also our networks, our partners, so that we can have really a collective group of organizations and agencies that have this kind of thinking that was in the room. So I want to thank everybody for your attention, for your involvement, and I wish you a very good evening. I declare the meeting closed. Thank you, colleagues.
nchi yetu kwa mkononi mwako, vile tunaelekea kwa uchaguzi. Tumekuwa wewe ushatufanyia, ushachagua kiongozi, ila tu wewe kutuletea yule aliyekuwa mzuri. Kwa hivyo Mwenyezi Mungu tunaomba nchi yetu iwe nchi ya amani, na utuongoze na utujaze na hikma, na viongozi wetu wote ambayo wametuwezesha kufika hapa. Tunawashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu, wajazeshe na neema yote, na ila mpaka siku nyingine ambayo tutaweza kukutana tena. Hayo yote tunaomba kwa jina lako mtukufu. Amin.
Karibuni chai. Kunywa chai kama mtaenda, msiende kutoka sana nyumbani leo.